Barak, Yahweh, Alam, Shalom, planet Earth. Welcome to TRU-TALK. Money, politics, religion. Religion, politics, money. Politics, money, religion. No particular order. I remember hearing, and y'all probably heard this before also, three things you don't talk about is politics, religion, and money. They say that's how you start an argument. So when you at work or when you just getting to meet or know somebody, it's not good to talk about politics, money, and religion. I was like, okay, that's a good advice, right? Then I thought about it. What are the most important things? Well, what are the three important things? I'm not going to say the most important things, but what are some of the three important things on this earth? Religion is one of them. Our soul, what we believe, where we going when we die. Money, of course, we work for money. People do a lot of crazy and strange things just for money. And of course, politics, the thing that make up our government, that pass laws that affect us indirect or directly. So why, if these three things so important, why are we told not to talk about these three things? And I know it can be people have different views, and there's no reason not to talk about something because people may have different views or understanding. That's how we sharpen our understanding. That's how we develop uh, sympathy for one another. Uh, that's how we get to understand one another, even if we disagree. So today I want to talk about politics. I talk about religion a lot, but I want to talk about politics. So forth. Somebody asked me this question, or this topic was brought up, and I meditated on it for a while. The freedom of speech. We got in the amendments, freedom of speech. I forgot what number it is. Uh, I'm not big on the amendments and knowing the amendments, and even though I should, I don't. I think that we all should be knowledgeable about where we live and the things that we do. And some things are just ignorant on our part. We just don't find it important to know or understand until we realize it's important to know or understand. So I got to do a better job to know about the amendments and what they really say and what our rights really are. But I know freedom of speech is one of the uh, amendments, freedom of speech. They say the forefathers wrote this into the Constitution. I think that's what they call it. Yeah, the amendments, the constitutions, the amendments. And when I tell you, boy, there's a lot of people that treat those Constitution and amendments like the Ten Commandments, like God Himself wrote these things. Uh, but we'll get into that a little bit later on about how people worship uh, these things and it can become an idol. But in the Constitution, the amendments, it says freedom of speech, right? So somebody asked, was I for cancellation? or was I for uh, censorship, censorship, where the government can control what we say or how we say it. And it was like, we got the freedom of speech. And it was like, well, as soon as the government do that, then it's dealing with the freedom of speech. You don't have the freedom of speech no more. You take that constitution, that right, that amendment away from us. And I thought about it, censorship, to censor somebody, to tell them they can't say this or they don't need to say that. And when we talk about censorship, those that argue that, they bring up hate speech, racism, you know, uh, violence, speech that provoke violence, or violent speech, or violent provoking speech. And they say, well, would you allow for somebody to go around and properly say we need to kill all Negroes and cite violence against your race or any race or group of people? Would you want somebody to go around spilling hate speech, saying hateful things about a group of people? And of course, the answer is no. But I can't stop nobody for doing that, because the commandment, the not commandments, but the Constitution, the amendments, the freedom of speech. And that's where censorship come in. And those that say, well, no, we're not trying to take your freedom of speech away. That's not what censorship is. Censorship is not telling you uh, what to say or how to say it. It's just taking away the hate speech or things that may uh, cause violence in the breakdown of society, or divide society. As a government, we need to, the word government, govern, is to govern men. We need to govern men's, and we need to govern the country, the state, and we need to have things under control. And if we just let people do what they want to do, aka just say what they want to say, it can be very dangerous, because then you get hate speech, you get uh, violent speech, speech that promote violence, you get speech that uh, racist speech. So I was like, that's a tough one to decide, because in hindsight, when you really break down the Constitution and freedom of speech, what do freedom of speech mean? It means I can say whatever, whenever, and however I want. And you can't do nothing about it. And you can't tell me what not to say out my mouth. And as a man, I'm for that. And it reminds me of this video of this Caucasian dude. He was going around, how they have these videos on YouTube of these people pranking people and doing these little silly jokes. Well, this is one of the videos that didn't last too long. Uh, he was pulling prank on black people. He would go around the city and he'll say the N-word. He'll like uh, bump into them on purpose, and he'll mumble the N-word, but loud enough for them to hear it. And they'll be like, huh, what did you say? And then he'll be like, oh, I ain't say nothing. And, he almost got in a couple of fights. And, but they just walked away and leave it alone after he said, I ain't say nothing. No, no, I didn't say nothing. But there's one particular, after doing like three of that, there's one dude punch him right in, I don't know if his jaw, his eyes, he got punched in the face because he was, called a black dude an N-word. And the first thing he did was, yeah, call the cops. Y'all seen this. I got this on videotape. this dude hit me. But it was funny because they was in front of this restaurant and he was trying to get the lady to agree with him. This dude just hit me for no reason. And she was like, well, it wasn't for no reason. You shouldn't never call him the N-word and you wouldn't never got hit. So that prank didn't last long and, he didn't go around doing that prank no more. I guess he thought it'd be a good idea, but he found out quick it wasn't. So I was like, well, people got the right to say what they want, but reaction, for every action, there's a reaction. And I don't uh, promote or uh, condone violence. I don't condone people acting off anger uh, and letting people manipulate them with words and getting them angry to get out their character to wrath and do something harmful to somebody. And for the most part, if you come across a God-fearing righteous man, he'll probably be a bigger man and won't say nothing. But the sad truth is we don't live in a God-fearing nation, and people does not live according to what the scriptures say. And people, when you offend people or say something hurtful or hateful to someone, 9 out of 10 they're gonna react back with that same energy or even more with hate or wrath or violence. So yeah, you can go around, for instance, freedom of speech. You can go around calling people wives BITCs, BITCHs all day, calling them the B word all day. Now, if one of those husbands decide to whoop your butt because you call his wife a B word, that's the consequence of your actions. That's the consequences of hate speech. That's the consequence of speaking rude and hateful and mean to someone. So when I thought about it, at the end of the day, the Constitution and the amendments are a piece of papers that's written down by men. They are written words on the paper. They don't have meaning. I mean, not meaning, but they don't have feelings. They don't have thoughts. They don't have common sense like people. So when the forefathers or whoever worked the amendments, the Constitution, those men had reason. They had sense. That piece of paper ain't got no reason or sense. So we know, even though we got the freedom to speak, that we shouldn't go around calling people wise bees, that we shouldn't go around being disrespectful and hateful to one another because that's going to cause us to put ourselves in danger. That's going to cause a problem. This is common sense. Now, the Constitution don't have no common sense. It just said freedom of speech. It can't think for us. We got to think for ourselves. And just as much as men wrote it back then, I don't understand why men can't rewrite it or write it something better in there. Like they like, no, what we got is written on stones. That, like I said, people worship it. Those commandments, those Constitution as if they're commandments. That if they're God commandments, they live by it. You know, they may not know the 10 Commandments or uh, either of the commandments that God told us, but they know the Constitution. like the back of their hand. They live by that Constitution. But once again, that Constitution just was written by men. It's just a piece of paper. It ain't got no common sense. But we as people, we should have common sense. And I believe every man should be able to govern himself to a certain extent. And it's a shame that we live in a society where there has to be a such thing as a censorship law or have to censorship to stop people from basically being rude and hateful to one another. It's all common sense just because I can say it, don't mean I should say it. Every grown up know this or should know this. So it's a indictment on us that the fact that we even gotta have the government to step in and say, hey, you can't go around calling black people Negroes and monkeys. That hey, you can't go around and say you want to kill this group of people. You can't do that. That we gotta stop this. You can't be with the hateful and violent speech. It's an indictment on uh, the people and the people mindset and where they at. Because if this was truly a one nation under God, a God-fearing nation, we shouldn't even have to worry about being censorship. We should just know that, hey, we got the freedom of speech. If I want to go around calling women bees, I can, but I'm not because I'm shouldn't, because it's rude and mean and disrespectful, and it's going to cause problems. So I think we should censorship ourselves. We should all have a little censorship and govern over ourselves. Well, no, I don't believe the government should come in and tell us we shouldn't do this. I believe we should already know not to do these things. So I guess my question is, yes, I believe in freedom of speech, and I also believe in censorship, but I believe that the censorship should come from ourselves. We should have enough self-control to censor ourselves to know some things shouldn't be said. And if you're going to say them, deal with the consequences. But then as well, how do the government deal with it when there's groups of people that's actually saying these wicked and ungodly things? Should we just allow for these people to continue to say these things, or should we step in and stop them? No, I say let them continue to say it. Let them continue to, uh, how can I say, life, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And me as a God-fearing man, when I step out in this world and wake up every day in this world, I know people are going to say hurtful and offensive things to me. And I got to know where to take it and how to take it and how to behave and have self-control in that moment. Now, of course, as always, this is going to cause trouble. It may even cause death. But these are the things that I believe when punishment come, when consequences come for your actions, that's when people start censoring themselves. If you get hit in the mouth or shot because you was rude and disrespectful to somebody, then you gonna watch what you say. Or you end up going to jail because you shoot somebody and you the one that started it. Because a lot of times these, you know, don't be ignorant of the devil device. A lot of these people that's speaking that hate speech, they know they're gonna provoke someone, and they be strapped. They be ready for you to react so they can yell self-defense. But as is always said, uh, when they made one gun, they didn't just stop. But yeah, I believe we all should have the sense enough to censor ourselves. And the sad thing is we don't. So the government have to step in, sadly, to sometimes retain order or try to set order to things. So I can see both sides in yeah, politics. So what y'all feel about this? Freedom of speech, or do y'all think people should just be allowed to say what they want, when they want, how they want? Well, if it's racism or hate speech, or do y'all believe the government should step in and say, hey, you can't say certain things because it's hateful and racist and promote violence? Uh, but whatever you do, whatever you decide, know this. Yah is true, and every man, let him be a lie. Until next time, Shalom.